everyone, and welcome to Elite Rugby SandC podcast. First off, if you haven't already, sign up and join Elite Rugby SandC today. We provide you all your strength, conditioning, speed, and recovery needs. You can try before you buy, so try our 7-day $7 trial to get a taste of what we offer here at Elite Rugby SandC. You can sign up to our newsletter and receive free bonus content each and every single week. So take your game to the next level, become a beast, and join Elite Rugby SandC today. Today on the podcast, we have special guest Blake Enever. Blake is a former Brumbies and Wallabies lock and back rower. He made 49 appearances for the Brumbies and 2 appearances for the Wallabies. Blake had a fantastic professional rugby career and has now decided to become a coach. Blake is coaching junior athletes at all different levels. You can follow him on Instagram at Enever Coaching. This was a fantastic episode to record as we discuss the importance of S&C for rugby athletes, how to manage and handle injuries. Blake provided some great advice for up-and-coming rugby athletes and also provided us with his favourite all-time teammate. Listen now to find out more. So thanks again for joining us, Blake, and we really hope you enjoy this episode, team. So g'day, Blake. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm going really well, thanks. It's a bit chilly down here in Canberra, as you would have experienced in previous years. But how's the weather up there at the Sunshine Coast?
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought I'd feel the cold like I did in Canberra, but up here, for some reason, low 20s and high teens seems to be just as cold. So you must adapt wherever you go, I think. But yeah, it doesn't compare to those Canberra winters.
Do you see people bringing out the Kathmandu jackets down there at all?
Not so much the Kathmandu, but I see a few fireplaces going off, and it's only about 18 degrees, and you sort of wonder what's going on. But yeah,
that's crazy.
It's good.
Yeah. That's good. So, growing up, what sports did you play, and how did you end up playing rugby?
Yeah, probably like a bit of a different journey. I played it when I was young. My school, Sunshine Coast Grammar, was just a rugby school. So just playing with mates, playing when we were young. And then I don't think it wasn't until about maybe 10, 11, where I just started to sort of venture out and play some other sports. I played soccer for maybe 2 or 3 years, obviously cricket over the summer. But then it wasn't until probably I was 14 when there was a coach that sort of chased me up a fair bit. I was always one of the taller kids in the grade, and there's not a heap of boys at the school, I guess. So it might have stood out a little bit, but he sort of said, "Do you want to come give rugby a crack again?" And I did. Sort of got in the tail end of the season. Sort of got selected into a bit of rep stuff. Only just based here in the Sunshine Coast. We just sort of play the Gold Coast and Darling Downs and Harvey Bay, places like that, pretty rural. And then sort of, obviously enjoyed that, flowed on from there. So yeah, kept playing it, played it for, it was a different comp. There was a school comp and then the weekend comp, so you're playing twice a week, only for a certain part of the year. But yeah, just enjoyed it, sort of got the love back for rugby, and I guess didn't really look back from there. Enjoyed my first 15, and yeah, really enjoyed the school portion of my rugby.
That's awesome. So at training, you do see a lot of forwards having a good old kick off the tee. Do you think your soccer skills helped you with that ability if you were brave enough to snag the tee off one of the backs and have a kick?
Yeah, look, it's funny now as being a bit of a coach, and you look at them all, you sort of remember those days where you all got there early and started kicking the ball around and enjoying yourself. So it's probably where you start developing the love for the game. But no, nothing transferred in the kicking department, mate, unfortunately.
That's all good. So what have you enjoyed the most this year in Super Rugby Specifica, just during the regular season? Is there anything that stood out that you've noticed?
No, it's been really good to watch. Obviously, I'll be a Brumbies fan probably forever. Take a lot to sort of shear me away from that, but obviously they've had a good year. Just different perspective, obviously you sort of, when you're playing, you're in touch with a lot of the squads, you sort of seeing where guys are up and coming, but what's been exciting is there's been a lot of turnover, and you're actually seeing a lot of these young guys come through and make a mark pretty early in their careers. I think gone are the days where you probably had to, if you're good enough, you're gonna get game time, and in these squads, especially with the season and the level of physicality and the speed the game's played at, you're gonna have to rotate. Probably you're gonna have to have good depth. I think it's been good seeing some guys get opportunities and they've done well. Especially with the Waratahs, they've been good to watch. The Reds probably unfortunate with some injuries towards the tail end of the season. The Force, they impress you here and there, and I think the Rebels are capable of some better performances here and there. So, Australia is probably, I feel like we're in a pretty good place, or an improvement at least this year, which has been exciting to watch. Obviously knocking off a few NZ teams. Just some good rugby, and it's just, overall the games have been, I've enjoyed watching them. So that's just my opinion.
No, it's good. I think the Brumbies do it the best probably out of all the Super Rugby teams in Australia is rotating those players, as you just said. Like this the trust that they have in the bench players, and a player who might have had a really good game one week might be on the bench that week, and then they're starting someone else. I think they're probably one of the better teams, and I think if some other teams had that depth, that would be really cool to see. And I think the Waratahs did that this year as well. And it's just incredible to see the turnaround for the Waratahs, going from dead last year to making the Super Rugby finals. It's just incredible. And do you think Australia has closed that gap between the New Zealand, like us and New Zealand in the Super Rugby?
Definitely closing the gap. I think, it's hard when there's sort of 5 separate programs, and I know they've sort of done a lot of work on centralizing or just keeping consistency of what we're up to. So it's hard to sort of look at it as a whole and say where we're at. Some teams are, they're doing quite well, some aren't quite there. Overall, you're going to get that when you spread a whole country across 5 teams. So New Zealand obviously do it well. They're losing players as well to overseas, and maybe they've maybe eventually they had that huge gap, probably 3 or 4 years ago, where didn't win against New Zealand team God knows how many days. So I think that's sort of not the expectation anymore. It's sort of it's a real contest. So I guess that's progress in itself.
Yeah, totally. Who are you backing this weekend? Is there anyone? Do you think there's going to be any upsets? Do you think maybe the Highlanders upset the Blues or something along those lines, or do you think the better teams will win?
Yeah, well, I think there's always those finals with the New Zealand teams where they just sort of sometimes pull something out. They're very capable of beating anybody on their day. So yeah, definitely could happen. I'll put it out there if you want some kind of left field prediction, but I hope the Australian teams do well. It'll be interesting. Crusaders always pretty tough. I know what to do that time of year, so it'll be good. But yeah, there'll definitely be, you couldn't probably go down and pick 4 winners.
Yeah,
outright, I reckon. So.
I don't think there'll be any one-sided affairs. I think it's just going to be a great contest. Teams are going to be pulling out some tricks. I think the Highlanders would be a team pulling out some tricks, some trick plays and all that, really trying to get the Blues off guard. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some trick plays and just the competition all over the weekend, really.
Definitely.
So what have you learned through strength and conditioning training over your professional rugby career, and how important is SNC for rugby athletes?
Yeah, I think, as I spoke about before, with the physicality of the game and the speed it's played at now, I think you really are, you're definitely not going to, for longevity wise and just for being a robust rugby player, there's no way you could do it without a sophisticated, thorough S&C program that you work hard at implementing. I think it's a bit of a luxury sometimes to have such good S&C staff, but then it's more you're making sure that you implement it and you take it seriously, because I think you're at that level. You can't get sort of someone making sure you do the 10 reps here and there. It's sort of what the onus is on you, which it should be at that level. So you've got to do the work, because otherwise it's going to catch up with you. So I think you don't realize when you're in that just in that routine of you getting your sessions done weekly, you're coming off the back of a good preseason, just sort of the shape that you're in and the strength that you have, because it sort of seems like, maybe you can't mark it on PBs are going up every, if you're a casual gymmer going to the gym that you're local, you probably want to see some PB bench going up by 10 kilos every month or whatever. But sort of did feel personally that you'd sort of plateau a little bit, but that point where you're at, where you can sort of stay robust, just injury prevention, you don't realize sort of, obviously there's method to the madness with the programs, how it sort of formulates you to be the best athlete you can be. So there's people like yourself that have done so much work and know exactly what to do. If we're coming in just with their rugby basics, we're not. Some people come in with a pretty good strength conditioning background, but the majority can rely on those staff members to sort of send them in the right direction. So super important. Probably don't realize how beneficial it is to your body after you step back, and how grateful you are to be able to sort of were doing that as your job at one point, sort of basically keeping your body in the best shape possible. People are helping you to do that, so now it's sort of all off your own accord. So yeah, it's a non-negotiable really these days, I think, which is totally fair enough. It's a professional sport, so I just think, how far down now can that start spreading? Like, I'm doing a lot of junior rugby stuff, and you see some teams that are implementing it earlier and earlier, but obviously, a bit of research and stuff behind that. So that's a different discussion on what age they can be implemented in. But I think rugby in general, you're going to be behind the 8 ball now unless you've really worked hard on being the best athlete you can be.
What age did you start training in the gym? Do you remember that? Was it when you decided to go back to rugby? Did the coach say, "Hey, you got to get into the gym because you're nice and tall, but you got to build some strength as well"?
Yeah, I think obviously that was probably about 2004, back then when I was 14. So no, I think it wasn't until the school built a gym. It was like just a shed with bare bones in it, probably in the car park was just a shed. So it's 2006 maybe. So probably was 16 going on to first year of first 15. And I think it was for my birthday, I got a year's gym membership. So that was stoked about that. So
yeah, it's probably the best present you can give a young teenager.
yeah, I reckon. Yeah, I agree. Definitely got my money's worth. So and I was pretty lucky. The guy that tapped me on the shoulder to come back and give rugby another go, he just loved it. And because we lived in Caloundra, so there's about 4 kids. Caloundra is probably 25 minutes south of the school. Excuse me. And sorry.
No, you're right. It's definitely challenging having to talk for a while. So no,
It's all good. So he would come pick us up in his Prado, and be 4 or 5 people in the back, and he'd bring us up, getting ready to go at 6:30. So him being so motivated and at your doorstep at 6:30, beeping the horn, sort of helped, I think. Those days back when it was probably optional back in the day, but he sort of gradually saw the benefit, and then sort of kept it going from then on. So yeah, I think just by it was just there, and it was the right thing to do, and it was enjoyable, and sort of started doing it when I was probably 16. Yeah, but I don't know if I would have done it earlier if it was there, or it'd be hard to know.
It's always much easier once you have that support, and if you're training in a group as well with your fellow teammates, it makes it so much easier and more enjoyable. Whereas if you're doing it by yourself, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's good. So, unfortunately, injuries are a part of rugby. How did you manage and handle injuries over your career?
Yeah, obviously being in a program with physios on hand, great doctors, and sort of high-end access to specialists, of you take for granted a bit. So, I mean, if you, I don't know, you sort of can get a shoulder reconstruction done within a week of doing it, or less than you can get it done. You can do it on the Saturday and be having surgery on the Tuesday, and then the way it's always looked at is you do it. Oh, I know you've done your shoulder, or whatever, and then they said, oh, you'll be back, and it's sort of like 6 weeks later, you might be out of the sling, certain strengthening, straight line running, and it was sort of like injuries are like looked at like a time frame, in my opinion. Like when you're in a squad or in the professional scene, it's more, they're not like upset with you that you're injured. It's just more like, oh, I'll get you back. And it's sort of that the focus just changes. It can happen so quickly. Like obviously at the end of a game, you could then be looking at, my best mates, ACLs are the worst ever. And you can sort of, what they're standing in the barrel of sometimes. And yeah, you don't wish that upon anyone. So I think, a game can shift you towards 9 months of missing a year. So it just changes your focus, I think, and a lot of work needs to be done in between. But yeah, it's not just sort of doom and gloom.
That's all right. Happened to Darcy the other week as well. He was struggling a bit, just continue talking. But no, that's all good.
I need you to talk for a bit.
That's a good. I think that's pretty good. Providing athletes with a timeline, because just as you said, once you're injured, you're like, oh shit, I can't be playing the game that I like, and I can't be doing it with my friends anymore. So having that timeline is really good, but you also got to remember, okay, that's the timeline, but you got to put in the work. You got to
Definitely.
listen to the physio, listen to the doctors of what you can and can't do, and listen to your S&C coach if you are fortunate to have one. And if you can then do all the right things and not rush that process or anything like that, you can definitely make that timeline. And I think that's probably the key, is just trusting that process. If you are injured, and just really start focusing on the process, because if you keep your head down and you're down to the dumps, it's not going to make it better. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, definitely. Just on that, you got to stay on it. And because you're in a program, you're probably seeing them 5 days a week, where Joe Blow might be seeing a physio twice a week. So, I mean, they might give you less exercises to do, but more consistently. So you really got to stay on it. So you said you got to do all the work, and then that's your role in the team for that next period of time.
And try and, I think I found a really cool thing with as being the S&C coaches. When an athlete is injured, it's a time for them to get better and work on some certain skills as well. So if you are injured, doesn't mean you just stand out on the sideline just watching training. It's like, hey, we're going to do as much as we can. And if you can do some ball skills, sweet, we're going to do that. If you can be around the line out and help your fellow athlete, teammates, then definitely do that. If you're a hooker, continue to throw if you can, if it's not a shoulder injury. So yeah, if you are injured, there's still so much you can do.
Definitely. Yeah.
Hi everyone. We just wanted to take a break from this episode. We hope you are enjoying this episode so far, and also all the content we have produced. We appreciate all the support from our listeners and followers so far. If you haven't already, sign up to Elite Rugby SandC newsletter today. We provide you free, exclusive content each and every single week to our subscribers. Link in the bio. Remember to like, subscribe, and share Elite Rugby SandC on social media to all your friends and families. So thanks again for your support, and now back to the episode. So, who was your favorite teammate to play with, and why were they your favorite teammate or teammates?
I probably got a couple of different angles on that. Obviously, as a professional and an athlete, probably David Pocock. Like, he was just the epitome of just an athlete and professional, and yeah, he just obviously didn't always stay as fit as he would have liked, but I don't think it was for lack of looking after himself. I think it was maybe whatever it was, but because he went so hard all the time, I don't know. But he was just, in anything he did, he was just always on and very present. So, I mean, his feedback and attention to detail was always incredible. And yeah, so he was always very inspirational. And then a lot of fun teammates, like that worked hard, but I mean, they're just fun to be around.
Mm. Mm. Hopefully Pocock's going to be senator soon as well. Still waiting for the news on that. It's just really cool to see him take a different role from rugby, to step back and just
Yeah,
try
definitely.
something new and give back to the community as well. And I think that's just credit to his character. Just as you said, like he's just so genuine, and he's always present in the moment. And yeah, you can't ask for a better guy, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Mm.
I hope it works out for him. That'd be awesome.
Mm. Do you see yourself ever going down the politics route or anything like that?
No, no, not me, mate. No, tried to
Uh, yeah,
steer in the shadows. I think a bit more, mate.
yeah, it'll definitely be a hard task. Definitely be a hard
Mm.
task. So now you're into your next part of your career. So you started your own coaching business, which is awesome. So to our listeners out there, check out Blake Enever Coaching on Instagram. So how are you applying your knowledge and experience from playing into your coaching?
Um, it's sort of obviously different levels, and that's something for the last year. I think I've really been trying to find the balance of some of the things we did. Because I think there's a difference between a kid that's just giving rugby a go for the first time and obviously someone that's professional. I think you're refining a lot of things and high repetition. But now you're sort of battling against kids. It's not a battle, it's just a different sort of opportunity and environment. But they're giving the game a go. So there's a balance between, obviously you want to get some good quality out of them, obviously to improve, but you also want to keep it fun. I've been doing a lot of sort of education and coaching courses over the last year, which have been really good. A lot of different opinions, and they, without realizing, probably back in the day, they actually did consider fun. For like at the Brumbies, obviously, some days it definitely didn't feel like that, but I think they had an element of trying to make things fun here and there, and I think you play around with the levels of that, obviously. So with school rugby and just junior rugby in general, I think the groups are a bit smaller. And on the Sunshine Coast, some other places are different. There's not as much competition for spots, so you really got to look after that core group. So yeah, just a balance between making it fun, but then making sure they improve consistently.
Mm, definitely. You don't want to forget the fun aspect to it, because it is a game at the end of the day. But you also want to tie in the seriousness of it as well, and learning those skills, just so that they can hone in on it. And then if they do want to play that sport later in life, when they're say 18 or 20 and older, they definitely have the knowledge and skills to be able to do that. But yeah, definitely doesn't matter what the age is. It should be having some fun, but also learning some skills, playing with your teammates, and also taking it seriously as well.
Definitely, yeah. So that's just something, finding the balance and working on session planning and yeah.
Mm.
So it's been really enjoying. Like I've enjoyed the year. It's been challenging. So I mean, it's exciting. Hopefully, I really do just want to benefit the kids here on the Sunshine Coast and hopefully be able to be part of their journey.
I think all rugby players at one stage should try and coach. I know I spoke about it on the last podcast. As soon as I got into year 7 or year 8, I started helping out with the lower age group. I always wanted to help out and coach and give back. And it made you understand sometimes when the coach got upset and frustrated, you start
Yeah,
to
yeah.
understand, like, that's why you're getting frustrated and angry, because we probably weren't listening and doing it properly. So I
Mm,
think it's a great way to learn, but also a great way to give back and help the next generation of rugby players come through the door. And yeah, so all our listeners out there, definitely try and give coaching a go and give back to the game that we love, and to the game that's given us so much as well.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
So what is the main advice you tell young rugby athletes today wanting to play professional rugby or try and make it in the pros?
Um, it's something that I think about a bit because obviously some kids I see they have potential, but you can sort of tell the ones that are just sort of not that interested. You get a whole bunch of different kids. So you get the kids that are so motivated, maybe not gifted with the best abilities, but they try their heart out. They take on all the feedback and they just continue to work. So I was probably never as gifted with the ability, like probably had the right attributes but I worked pretty hard. And I think that was sort of my point of difference, maybe was my work rate. I wasn't definitely, I wasn't scoring fancy tries or flick passes out of nowhere, things like that. I mean, I was doing the basics well with good work rate. Obviously, just kept improving on the finer details of my position. But I definitely just tell them when they're asking people questions and wanting to improve and you get feedback from a credible source, implement them. Kids these days, I feel like asking, Kieren, how do I get better? And as you're explaining it to them, as you be explaining it, they're sort of looking at the ground and they go, okay, sweet. I think they've ticked the box at getting better by just asking. But you can see them sort of the next time you do a drill, they just don't incorporate it. And it sort of doesn't make sense as to why you asked in the first place. So taking on feedback from credible sources, because I mean that's a battle in itself. Some coaches are, I'm not saying I'm the most credible source, but I've sort of seen what's worked consistently over a long period of time. And I'm working quite hard to stay up to date and do a lot of PD, a lot of stuff like that to sort of continue to progress as a coach. But if your dad says you're just going to run laps or things like that, you sort of battle a bit with feedback from that. You're like, well, I just need to get fitter, so I'll just run 3 laps after a session, and then pull a calf the next session, things like that. So make sure your sources are credible, and then take the feedback on, try and improve it. If you think this doesn't work for me, you've got to give it a go, in my opinion. They're all quite confident with what they're doing. Confidence, great, they'll get you places, but back it up with consistent improvement and the intent to get better. Always. Like Christian Leofano, never, he'd be the best kicker and passer and in many settings we were in, but he would do more than everybody else. So I mean, it just sort of goes to show that you can be best at something, but you just got to keep working on it because you can always probably be better.
Totally. The strength and fitness, I feel like that comes over your career. And if you focus too much on those and forget the basic skills of, just like you said with Christian, kicking, passing, and doing all these things as a back does, because we don't know what backs do, to be honest, because we're forwards. But if you're working on all those skills and just spending an extra 5-10 minutes out in the backyard, chucking the footy around, throwing against the fence paling, all that adds up at the end of the day. And if you're doing all those little things, and just like you said, finding some drills out from some credible sources, could be from a coach like yourself or a really knowledgeable dad as well, who's trying to keep up with the with the times. And if you add all those drills in and trial and error, but just have fun as well at the end of the day. Just have fun passing around with the ball with your mates, trying to improve. And I just don't think you can go past having fun just playing with your mates out there. It's such a great game.
Yeah, I think our office overlooks the 2 ovals at our school when the days I'm in at grammar, and they're all playing at lunchtime and enjoying themselves as they should, testing the boundaries with passes and kicks and stuff. I think that's where you learn and develop a lot of your skills as well.
No, definitely agree. That was, I think, majority of the lunch times when I was at school, we're always playing touch footy either against ourselves or against the older boys, and it was always fun. It was always good. It did turn into tackle at the end, but that's always good.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah. So did you have a certain game routine? And if so, did you have any superstitions, like you had to put your left sock on or your left boot, or you had to have the corner in the change room or something along those lines?
No. I was probably, there was a point where people were starting to develop a few of those here and there. Some guys had it, some guys didn't. But so I'll cough it out and then I'll be back and say.
That's so good. Definitely listen to our other podcast with Darcy. He was saying about his superstitions. He likes to, I think it's his left sock, left boot, right boot. But other than that, he tried to avoid doing too many things like that, because you might get trapped in a rabbit hole of like, you have to do everything like this, and if it doesn't go right, I'm gonna have a shit game. So yeah, what's your game day routine when you were playing, Blake?
Yeah, I was definitely worried about that, because say I had my type of food I wanted to have, or I forgot the item that I needed, like my favorite skins or favorite budgies or whatever. I was terrified then it would like psych me out of the game. So I tried to always avoid having anything, but I tried to just get excited about certain things that I could do on game day. So pancakes, obviously, I'd loved having those on game day. I tried to not really have them any other time.
Just basic pancakes, or like blueberry, choc chip? Like, what are we talking about here?
Just basic, and then just like stupid amount of maple sort of thing. Like, not a stupid amount. Yeah, so just good maple, and sort of that was my go-to. And then, so no superstitions really, but late games I used to love, because I was a bit of a late riser, and then I could sort of cruise and then sort of time a run, and then 7:45 ready to go. It was like cold at night, and loved the later games. Thought they were awesome. And then so that some all kinds of game times now. So which is fine. That's just how it is. But yeah, and then club rugby was always 3 p.m. and stuff. So that was always good. Gives you plenty of time after the game as well when you're playing club league when you're younger. So
totally. I didn't have too many superstitions growing up, but I did like having this specific corner on the home sheds, and I always like to be ready first. I always like to be the first one ready and just have a really long warm up. Like, not long as like it's hard and intense. It's just I get out there, I get a feel for the game that's playing ahead of me or playing right then, and just start looking, and then just playing with the ball, start throwing or passing, and just slowly get into it. I hated being rushed. If I was rushed, I was just, I don't know, wasn't on my best. But then some games when I was rushed, I had a really good game. So it's, yes, you don't know what works sometimes. It just works out for the best sometimes.
It's funny like that. You've got your superstitions or your routine, and then you go out of it and it works out, and you're like, oh, what am I doing anyway?
Yeah,
why am I wasting my time?
a new superstition starts, or something like that.
Yeah, someone should rush me every game day.
So what advice do you have for people on managing their bodies to perform week in and week out?
I think when I was younger, like 20, I thought I was pretty indestructible. And that's fine. I probably regret earlier on in my career doing a lot of extra work in and around prehab and general flexibility and recovery, because I would just, I don't know, when he's 19, 20, he'd play club and then go out all night, and like you'd feel okay Sunday, but I think maximizing more those early years, especially when younger guys are getting more opportunities to Super Rugby, you've got to be really ready to go. So have those skills, or know what to do, know how to recover your body best, to really put you in a good position. Putting yourself in a good position to train. Everyone sort of focuses on being good for next weekend, but you really got to be in a good position to train on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever your schedule is. I think that's massive. Because if you keep missing so many trainings, blah, 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 you sort of keep losing that consistent improvement. Again, people start leapfrogging you. So yeah, getting in a good position to train on the Monday, not just survive or still be a bit dusty, blowing the cobwebs out on a Monday. Be ready to go on a Monday. And then you can see your game just improve like that.
No, totally agree there. I think people forget about the process sometimes, and the process is every single day and the training opportunity that you get. And if you're maximizing that time, as you've mentioned, and do that consistently over the week, when you get to game day, you're just ready to go. You're excited, and you've done all that work, and no matter what the opposition does to you, you still put yourself in a really good position to have a really good performance. And I think that's probably the main thing that I've seen over my coaching career, and talking to someone like yourself. Yeah, it's really falling in love with the process, doing the work, and then you'll reap the rewards on the weekend.
Yep, definitely.
So my final question is, what was, if you can have one moment in your rugby career, what was your favorite moment playing rugby?
Um, probably best moment was running out at Twickenham for an 86,000 for the Wallabies in a starting jersey without being in the team on the Thursday. So that was pretty cool. And I think I'm grateful for how quickly that happened. So I didn't overthink everything, and, was ready to go and played a pretty good game. So it's a good memory, but
We just lost him for a little bit. He's coughing again.
mate, I'm so sorry.
That's all good.
It's been a real battle. In 2015, we played a quarterfinal in Cape Town. And I just remember the team that we had. It was just like, you Joe Tamani, Scott Fardy, Nick White, Matt Tamua, Ben Alexander, like all these incredible. Rory Arnold was coming on the scene, Sam Carter, Scotty Sear, awesome. And we beat the Stormers by it's huge, smoked them in Cape Town quarterfinal. I just remember just being awesome. Like it was just, it didn't really, because it was my first year, really. I sort of was playing these games over in Cape Town in South Africa for thousands. So that was awesome. There were some really good mates that year and good group.
I think Joe
really
Tamati scored a hat trick on that day, didn't he? He scored a couple. He was a freak.
I think I sent him one on the edge.
Yeah, I think him and Nick
gave
White.
it to him way too early, and then he still was able to finish it. So
yeah, I think Nick did a pass off the scrum or something, or if he scored or Joe scored, and then he did a kick or something along those lines. It was such a good game, and I do remember. I don't think I got up and watched the game, so don't hold that against me. But okay. I just remember waking up the next day and just seeing the Brumbies winning. I was like, really? Like, whoa! Like you didn't win. You smoked them, just as you said. Yeah. No, that was a killer team back then. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah.
So
that was good.
Where can people best find you on the social media aspect?
I'm just trying to get a bit of a Instagram and Facebook presence. I'm trying to post some educational stuff along the way, sort of once I sort of get more established, and hopefully get a bit of an audience that are willing to learn and to progress in the junior rugby scene. So just Enever coaching on Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, so I'm just trying to do that, and
we'll put those links down in the show notes as well if people want to check out your page. It's a good page. You're posting some really good stuff at the moment, and it's nice to see you also posting some relevant Super Rugby stuff and your coaching points from that as well. It's really good to see, and we're definitely a big advocate of what you're doing, and we do wish you the best with all that. So thanks for coming on the podcast, Blake. It's been awesome. I know people get a lot of takeaways from this, and it's always nice to get a former professional rugby athlete point of view and how they made it and how they were able to stay at that high level and just give back to the game that we all love. And do you have any final thoughts that you want to share before we go?
No, that's awesome. Thanks, Kieren, for having me on board, and say hello to Ben for me. We'll catch up with him another time, but yeah, I really appreciate everything you're doing, and I appreciate you reaching out. It's been great to have a chat tonight. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Blake, and thank you everyone for listening. So thanks for tuning into another episode of Elite Rugby SandC podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and rate Elite Rugby SandC on Spotify, YouTube, and follow us on Instagram. Sign up to become a beast today via the link in the description or via Instagram page. Also, sign up to our newsletter and receive free bonus content each and every single week. So don't wait, make that good decision and join Elite Rugby SandC today and take your game to the next level. So thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Ben.